Welcome to the Awarenezzz podcast. In today's episode, we had the chance to speak with Guillermo Boal, physiotherapist for Real Madrid Castilla, Real Madrid basketball, and the Spanish basketball national team. In this episode, we have a lot of actionable advice on the things that the best teams in the world do in order to perform at their best, and what drives their decisions on the amount of load they're going to put in their training and the way that they're going to train. So if you're an athlete that wants to perform at your best, this podcast episode probably has the information you might be looking for. We went on the things on what to look for in each stage of the season to determine how to train. And we even went into the weeds of how the best teams in the world make a decision on whether a player plays, whether a player rests, and how hard they go in their training considering the team that they're going to play. Which was very interesting to know that they don't just go with the same approach on each game, but they actually plan in advance depending the position that they're at, the stage of the season that they're at, and many other multiple factors that we discussed about, but that is definitely something that made this podcast episode really interesting. So, as I said, if you're somebody that just wants to perform at your best, this podcast episode is definitely a must watch. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 27th episode of the Awarenezzz podcast. Today we're here with our guest, Guillermo Boal. It's very nice to have you here, man. Introduce yourself to the people.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, thank you both for the opportunity of being here and talking with you about physiotherapy and a little bit of sport, of my journey. So, well, I've been always a super sportive guy. I've played many different sports, but mainly basketball and ice hockey. That is a little weird here in Spain, but well. And then I did started practicing and getting along with also different physiotherapists and different type of professionals that we usually have around sports here in Spain. And I do get along really good with physiotherapy, so I started studying. And then finally getting into the sports world right now with Real Madrid football team, basketball team, with the national basketball team here from Spain. I've been a couple of times with tennis too, with professional tennis, with ATP. So, well, many different sports, but focus right now in football and basketball.
That's great, man. That's great. So you've been like in almost every sport, like hockey, basketball, football.
Or as a player or as a physiotherapist, but yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I love sports, so as you do, so well.
That's
Try
great.
to learn from all of them.
That's great, man. And I mean, I wanted to ask you, like, what got you as into the physiotherapy world? I mean, of course, into the sports world, the fact that you've always been an athlete, you've always played any like some sort of sport, but what about specifically the injury part, like the physiotherapy part, injury prevention or injury treatment? What was it about it that really got your attention and what got you into it?
Since I was like really young, I was really focused and thinking about helping people. So I was more on that sanitary part of sports and all that. I loved the sports since I was really young. So I was trying to get to work something that it's a mixture on between helping people and working with athletes or being around the sport. So, well, as soon as I started to get a little older and understanding a little bit more about the different type of professionals that we could be having in sport, I really liked a lot the profession of physiotherapist, because I think that is one of the most that it gets to be more during the whole process of the injury with the athletes. So I really like that. I struggled a little bit with some injuries by myself when I was an athlete. So as soon as that I could see that that person is the one that is helping you on your day by day, I really like it a lot and get to work on it.
Okay, so basically the involvement that you have inside of the sport and with the athletes. Okay, amazing, man. And also we understand, and also the people watching understand. Just run us a bit through like how does the day-to-day in your work looks like of course with Real Madrid, with the Spanish Federation, like how does your work in a day-to-day basis look like?
Well, it's really different when we are working with the federation, with the national teams, or with the clubs. Okay, with the national teams, it's like really compact. Like we don't have a big amount of time for preparing for the games and all that. So we usually double the time of trainings, of recovering and everything. So it's really more tough. But the day-by-day situation is pretty much the same. Okay, we first, and when we are on a club, we do like the pre-assessment. We do like a little precision. We try to test them as many things as we can when they are new players for us. We try to check for their strength, for their endurance. We try to check for their capacity of the range of movement, everything that we could check on them. And we start to work during the precision on their weakness part. Okay, on the part where they are not that well prepared for the season.
Yeah.
After that, when we are focusing more during the season, we try to maintain a good amount of loading for those players so that they feel strong and prepared enough for the different games that we are going to have.
Yeah.
And we need to balance that situation usually with the recovering part, because sometimes, as Matt was saying, some kind of competitions we usually have to play for 2 or 3 times a week, and sometimes that is hard to manage with all that loading part, with all that work in the gym, and with all that recovery part, because sometimes we don't have enough time, so we have to risk a little bit more, or on the recovery, or on the gym, or on the court.
Okay.
Okay, and finally we have a little bit of off season, where it's also the best part to have some rest, to recover a little bit, but also work on your weakest part, on the parts that you are not that well prepared. When you are with the national team, everything is a mess. We don't have time for nothing, so we have to measure super fast on the first couple of days.
Okay.
We don't used to have that much time for prevention or for working on the weak parts, so we try to focus more on the performance. Okay, more on the tactical part also, because we need to work as a team for people that hasn't been training for that much time together. But also we try to put a little bit of prevention on those trainings, but mainly getting them ready for the good part, for the games, because also we are with a national team and getting for a European Championship or a Mundial or World Cup or whatever, you are playing a lot. You usually play every single day, and maybe you have every 3 days 1 day of rest, something like that. So it's really tough. You need to work a lot with them.
Okay, so it seems like the teamwork, like a Real Madrid or at a club, it really gives you that, not freedom, but it gives you the opportunity to focus on the long term development of the athlete. But then in the national team is like, okay, how do I wrap your ankle so you're ready to perform tomorrow? You know, like you're not gonna think how do we prevent this injury from the root, but how do we stop it from hurting tomorrow or something like that, right?
There you go. Perfect. Yeah. That's the
Okay.
idea. But it's really, really tough to manage those situations. For example, when you have an injured player during the season, you're with the club, you could be working on getting it back to the games and all that. You have more time for all that. But with the national team, it's sometimes nearly impossible. When they have something that is a hard injury or something that is gonna take for a little bit of time, usually they will lose the rest of the tournament.
I just saw I mean, you don't have to say anything about it, but with the national team, with Lamine Yamal, I heard there was some discussion between Barcelona and
you always it's sometimes, even though that I've been working with many clubs during my life and with the national teams, sometimes you have like a little conflict of interest in that situation, because of course the national team wants that player to perform with them, but their clubs, they need to protect their players too. So sometimes that, as I was saying, sometimes that decision is really hard, and you need to take everybody involved in that situation: the club, the player, the national team, the health part of the national team, everything, to get them to have the best selection, the best idea for that player. It's sometimes really hard to manage.
I mean, like Camilo said, like for the club, the most important thing is the long-term picture. But then for the national team, at this moment, it's 1 week, national week, and then they want to have the players on the pitch.
And it's funny because I remember just when, I don't know, I'm from Colombia though, so let's say a player, the club from the player didn't want to like give the player to the national team. I used to think like, oh, but what's wrong with them? Like why they don't give it to him? But if you think about it, it's like you try to protect the person. Like that's the person that's most likely gonna make the difference in your season. And if something happens to that person, you can go from being the champion to not winning anything. So you really want to be super protective of that, right?
Yeah. Sure, but the same happens for the. It's really tough. It's
Yeah,
because also for players, it depends a lot on their objectives. For
yeah,
example, sometimes for them, I don't know, they are not doing that good with their team, and with the national team, they have the opportunity to get that championship, whatever. So they
yeah,
are a fight. They are gonna push, even they have that injured. But the problem is that afterwards they will have a problem with their clubs. Sometimes it's just the opposite. They know that they are on a really good club, they can manage to get something during the normal season with their club, and they don't want to risk during the uh, off season for them. That is also the national team situation for that period of time.
yeah.
So it's sometimes really, really hard to manage all those situations. But it's super interesting, and you, as a professional that are around that situation, sometimes it's hard for you also to take all those decisions and to manage that situation, but you learn a lot from those situations.
I can imagine. Yeah, and as you said, it's a lot of conflicts and interest in there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of points that you mentioned that I really want to touch on, especially like the evaluation part that you guys do, and also how the approach changes in off season and preseason. But before we go into that, I wanted to ask you. I mean, of course, you work in two different sports, basketball and football. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the difference that you see from a physiotherapy standpoint, that you see in those two sports, if you see any difference.
Yeah, sure. It's always different. Okay,
Yeah.
from every single sport, every single player, every single person is gonna be different. Every single person that you are treating as a physiotherapist is gonna be different. But also the sport is gonna be way different. In this case, it would be more on the tactics part, more on the tactical part. The amount of loading they are having on the court and on the gym would be a little bit different on between football and basketball. And also the kind of, in my point of view as a physiotherapist, the amount of injuries you are going to have from the lower part of the body in football is going to be way more than on basketball, that you are going to have lower upper body injuries and lower body injuries and upper body injuries. You're going to have a mixture of both in basketball.
Hey.
In football, you are going to focus more on the lower body. You will have sometimes a shoulder, sometimes the hand of a goalkeeper or something like that. But in football, it's going to be more the lower part of the body, the one that is always in risk.
Yeah.
In basketball, it's going to be everything. It's a really more contact sport, and you could have, or also you will have more blisters, okay, because of that contact. And that in football, no, in football is going to be more like a pulled muscles kind of injuries. The most common, for example, the most common injury that you're going to have in basketball, the first more common is going to be the ankles, a twisted ankle, okay, and a sprained ankle. But in football, it's going to be the pulled muscle of the hamstring. That's the most common ones. So it's a tiny difference. The second more common in basketball would be shoulders, but in football would be the low back pain. So the kind of injuries that you could have in one sport and in the other is going to be tiny difference. And sometimes in football, it depends on the club, it depends on the competition that you're having. But in football, usually they are playing more games during the week. They have more kind of games than on basketball kind of season. Okay, so it depends. If we are talking about NBA, it's going to be different and all that. But in here, they have a little bit more of time. So we do train a little bit more maybe during the week with basketball players. We have double time of sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And in football, sometimes we have a morning and afternoon trainings, but it's not that common because they have more games usually.
I see.
And also on basketball, would you say that basketball is way more harsh on the knees because there's so much change of direction? That's what I heard a lot.
Also the surface where they are training is way different.
Yeah.
So the amount of ACLs that you had in basketball is super high, but right now in this moment, also in football is really well common. It has increased a lot in a couple of years. But yes, that's also in football is happening more because of the kind of shoes that they are using right now. That they get more stuck with the grass than usually before, that it wasn't that hard. But
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna ask you something else, but now that you mentioned that, can you tell us a little bit more about like how the shoes that they're using are affecting like the injuries that they're having?
Sure. For example, in football, there are like two kind of, I don't know how to say that in English, like the under part that they are having,
The
that
studs.
the sketch, yeah, okay. That part can be like more of a plastic or rubber kind of material, or
Yeah.
more like a steel.
Yeah,
The
like the
ones,
anti-plug ones.
yeah, and if they don't manage good because they feel a little better with one kind than the other and all this kind of situation, they will get more stuck on that kind on the surface. And if they get more stuck on the surface, the ACL is more at risk. So they have to manage that really good, and we have to teach those players to use more one kind of the steel ones more when it's raining, or when the surface is more like with water and all that, okay, so that they have that good amount of resistance, okay. But when it's not like that, use more like the rubber ones, because they are not that on risk for the joints, okay, for this case for the knee. But well, sometimes it depends also on how they feel better. So
Yeah,
it's not always the theory, also the practical part, and the player that you're having there. There are some that they want every single game the rubber ones. There are other ones that they want every single game the steel ones.
I see.
Actually, this week one of my teammates, he forgot his like actual boots and he had like only his metal studs, and we play on artificial turf. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, you
No.
can't do that. That's going to be horrible for your knees. And
Also.
after 5 minutes, he went into the locker room and changed his boots with a friend.
There you go.
He came in.
The artificial surface is
Yeah.
terrible. It's the most hard one to manage. It is
Yeah.
terrible. Yeah.
And I also saw videos from basketball, like NBA teams, like they do lifts after the game sometimes to have like a higher load.
Mhm.
It's not common also in Spain.
It's sometimes common, not that well common in the teams that I've been. It's more common in the national team situation, as you don't have that time for that gym.
yeah.
Sometimes after the game is sometimes with the national teams, when you are doing the previous part, sometimes you get to play to some teams that are not maybe on the same kind of level that you could be. So if it's been like a really easy game, you could have after the game a tiny bit of part of working at the gym, so that you have a better loading, preparing you for those kind of games that are more at your level.
I see. So it's kind of like in that national team contest, you want to be as efficient as possible with the team. So you want to make use of every single moment that you have,
Every
right?
single hour. Usually, for example, with clubs team, you have like a more normal schedule time.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
you're
You
with the
can plan.
national team, yeah, sometimes you get to treat even after midnight. You're at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. You are ending with the treatment, and sometimes also it's a risky situation, because is this treatment gonna help more my player, or is the resting situation the one that is gonna help him more?
Yeah,
It's really hard. You don't have time. You finish some games after 10 at night here with the national team. So you need to take dinner, you need to treat, and you need to rest. It's
definitely.
super hard. And also sometimes maybe the trainer here is thinking more of getting into the gym and all that. And it's like, no, well, we had this idea, but we are ending finally. The game has been longer than what we expected, and we need to rest. They need to rest, because if not, they could have a pulled muscle. So yeah, it's more compact, more risky situation.
That's super interesting, man, because a lot of people might see like a physiotherapist or athletic trainer, somebody that just whenever a player feels something, okay, they're there and treat them. But it's all these underlying things of like, how do you manage what's gonna be the most beneficial for the player considering the situation that you're at, and that all that planning that goes underneath that sounds like it's actually the work that you do of like, okay, how do you, like, as you mentioned, is it better for you just to go to sleep, or should we do this treatment now? And also like considering that you sometimes have a lot of time constraint, depending if you're with the national team, with the club team, and it's all those things of like, okay, what are the things that are going to help my players the most, right?
For me, you just getting to the point. The most important point for me, the best advice that we could give to people that is listening and all that preparation part is even more important than the treatment part. But also it's important. You need to be prepared. You need to know what are the collective objectives, the personal objectives of the player, your own objectives as a professional, okay? But you need to collaborate with every single person that is on that process. But also, you need to be flexible. Even that you have an idea I don't know, I have an injured player, and I was thinking that today the best for him is was doing this at the gym, whatever, with me at the table. And that player comes to me, and that morning he has had a terrible day last night. He didn't get enough sleep, whatever. And I was thinking on doing a lot of things in the gym, and that person comes to me with this problem, and I'm like, okay, so now I need to change everything, because if not, maybe the good idea that I was having of doing this at the gym could be the worst one for today, because
Definitely.
he's not prepared for that, because he had a problem, whatever. We are persons, we are working always with persons, and we need to remember that you need to have a good plan, but you need to be flexible with that plan.
I see. I see what you're saying. And Guillermo, the next point that I wanted to touch on is basically what we're talking about, which is your philosophy when treating a player, when treating a team. And it sounds like it all comes from, of course, your base of knowledge, that of course you have all your experience, you have all your the knowledge that you've acquired, but then also being able to adjust that knowledge and adjust like the different methods and techniques that you're going to use, or treatment that you're going to use, depending on the specific situation that the player is facing. That's kind of like the sense that I've gotten. Is there anything else that you would add to it that would describe your philosophy on how you approach a player?
It would be mainly what we have just said, to focus in the person that you are having, to
Okay.
listen also that person, and also get to surround with good professionals around you. Listen the other kind of professional that you are having with you. Listen the doctor. Listen the I don't know, some other physiotherapists that might be with you, to your colleagues. Listen to the player. Sometimes the family of the players also. Sometimes we need to talk with them when they are facing a long-term injury. How are they doing at their houses? If they are doing good mentally. Work with also psychologists, many kind of professionals and persons in this case that could help to do the best, to focus in that person. What is the best for this person in this kind of situation, in this specific one? I had some knowledge from other kind of ACLs. I had the experience treating many other ACLs. But the most important part is that not every single treatment, not every single idea might work for everybody the same. So focus in the person that you are having, and listen a lot. Listen.
Amazing, man. So it's like always not taking what you know and what you've experienced for granted, but always being open to the new scenario, to all different people and their opinions, and trying to involve as many like points of view as possible, so then you can come to like the most informed decision. And I mean,
I'm also like a really scientific person. I always try to think a lot with the idea that is well known, with what I've known, what I've learned, whatever. But also sometimes the theoretical part could be not the best one for that person, could be not on this case, because we have this other problem that is in risk with this, also with this other part of this theory. So that's the other part that is important. Try to focus in that person, even that you have your knowledge, whatever. Always think on that person, the best for that person. Focusing on the science part, okay, but focus in the person that you're having there.
Okay. And it sounds like, of course, when somebody's telling you something of what they might be feeling, and you're hearing also different points of view from different people, there might be some conflicting, as we've already talked about, like points of view. How do you do you have any type of process in which you come to a decision of, okay, I've received all these points of view, all these opinions from different people, and more importantly for the player, now I'm gonna make a decision on how am I gonna treat this player? Like how do you come across and say, okay, this is gonna be the method that we're gonna implement?
In this part,
If there's even one.
it won't be always like just my idea. I try to interact with every single person, with the player, with the doctor, whoever, and try to have a collective idea. So we try to share all that knowledge. We have our meetings weekly or daily or whatever, and we try to get out of that meeting with the best idea, coming with all the information that we have from every single professional, and had a plan, but a collective plan, so that that person that is going to get that treatment, that player, it's more easily that they trust on you, because we share all the same idea. We have a plan, and we have to stick to that plan, at least, because this is what we think it would be the best for this person. And if we have any problem during that idea, during that process, okay, we will sit down again, we will meet again, and we will start to share again those ideas and try to change a little bit the plan that we have from that situation, listening to everybody on the process. So it's really important on your clubs, on the federations, on everything, that you have a really good communication with everybody. In this case, we could have a lot of problems if someone from all that collective idea is not telling all the information that they know, is lying because they have a different interest on the situation, whatever. But that communication, you need to be on a trustworthy environment always.
Yeah. Okay.
So that this can work, you need to be on a trusty situation. Yeah.
I see. So it's not just a decision that just lies on one person.
No.
But it involves everybody having to be in the same page on, okay, this is how we're gonna approach this situation, and then also being able to make those adjustments in group, like, and as you mentioned, that requires having trustworthy people and good people around you, right?
Yeah. Sometimes when we don't manage to share the same idea, we have different roles, okay, and there's one person that is gonna take the lead on this situation, but it's because we have got into a spot, into a situation where both ideas are not possible, and we are having two different ideas of treating this patient or whatever. And in this case, someone also as a collective idea will be the idea that we are gonna follow. Someone is gonna be the leader, but even though that person that was confronting that situation is going to stick to the plan, even though that is not his idea, until we have got into a different problem, and finally we see that our first idea wasn't the correct one, it was the second one. Okay, so we will try to change everything into the second idea finally, but we need to stick together.
I see.
You said you have like the meetings. Is the player involved into the meetings, or you sit together with just the other physios?
We sit all the different statements of the club at least once a week.
Okay.
At least, so the doctor, the physical trainers, the physiotherapists, psychologists, sometimes coaches, and sometimes even with the players. But at least we have one every single week. And for example, with the national team, sometimes it's every single day. We finish with the game, and after the game, we are talking about the next game, because we are preparing for tomorrow. We are having a next game tomorrow. And during the morning training, we need to focus on different parts. Or this player has got a lot of problems during the game, so he's going to rest and he's not going to be with the tactical part, and he's going to be with the physio. So it's again that communicating part, so that we stick to the idea together. We think for this player, the best situation is that he's not training, and someone is going to say, no, he needs to train because he's the best. We need a good loading, whatever. And so we are having a confronting situation, okay, and someone is going to get in there and he's like, no, okay, let's talk to the player, let's see how he feels or whatever, and he's saying that he's not feeling good, he needs some rest, mentally, physically, whatever. So we're going to stick into the physio plan, into the doctor's plan, whatever. So that's the main idea.
It definitely makes the most of sense as well. Like, even if you're the best physiotherapist, you want to hear like what is going on with his mental state of mind, or like how the training is going. I think also gives the perfect feeling for the player himself. Like, you don't want to be injured and then like just one guy is doing a decision on you.
There you go. They are a part of that decision, so it's even more easy that they trust on the process, that they trust on you, because they are feeling that you are doing the best for them. Okay, sometimes shit happens, sometimes we will have some problems. Okay, it's normal in sport, it's normal in the health sanitary part. Okay, but at least they were also okay with that idea. They were a part of that idea, so they are gonna stick into the second idea too.
Definitely. And like, I can see how, considering that like you guys are taking into account so many different factors, the mental part, the injury prevention part, the nutrition part, you want to make sure, like, especially in an environment that you're tracking also like so many different aspects, that all those areas are in the same page and are aligned. Because I can imagine, like, for example, you say, you're telling a player, oh, you need to rest, but then the coach doesn't really know much about it and he's not very involved with that decision. He's like, okay, but where's the player today, you know? So everybody has to be on the same page, right?
Yeah. And again, and having that communication is, for us, it's impossible that situation will happen, because the coach will always be informed that this player is not doing good. Before taking that decision, they need to know that this player is having some injury problems, is not feeling good mentally, is having, I don't know, some nutritional problem, whatever. So we need to inform every single part of the team.
Okay, I see. I mean, in this area, we really talked about like we really got to understand your approach and how you treat and how you and the team treats a process with a player, and it always comes from that listening to all those different point of views, starting from the player, but then also from the other professionals surrounding you, and that requires to have a very trustworthy environment, right? So now we really want to get also into the specifics of, for example, the preseason, the off season. How does it change depending on the moment, right? So as of now, we're starting off the season, as you mentioned at the beginning of us talking. The basketball team starting the season, the soccer team, the football team started the season already. So now that you're starting off the season, what are the main things that you're looking to get dialed in, the main things that you're looking for when treating a player?
Okay, so it will be different on the different parts of the season, as the preseason, the season, and the off season. At the preseason, for me, the most important part is getting that schedule, that early schedule for the rest of the season. So we need to measure. We need to measure a lot. Get some kind of information about the player and what we want this player to be done during the season. So we started talking with every single part of the team. With the physical trainers, if we need to get some different parts of the body of this player to be more strong or whatever, as physios and the doctor team, they need to know where they could get, where they are more on a higher risk of injury, some other injuries that they had on earlier seasons, things like that, and start to work on that. And with the coaches, what they want to develop or what they need from that player for the rest of the season. With that, we start to prepare everything for the season, and it's super important on the precision part that they get a good amount of loading, that they get prepared for the season, for the part that we are more interested in. We don't mind losing maybe a friendly game on that situation because we didn't push that hard. But if we are prepared for the first game, that's good for us. That's not a big deal for us. So that's the main important part. And also, so that we are not putting that much pressure on the first part of the season at the preseason, so that at the end of the season we have had a lot of muscle injuries because we haven't get ready for that long period of the season. Okay. So it's the preparing situation on the preseason. During the season, it would be the battle of what we were saying, of recovering and good amount of preparation for the games. We are always on that battle during the season. And also, if we have some injuries from players, trying to get them back in shape so that they can help the rest of the team, get them back to be ready during the season. In that situation, it's most like a struggling situation between the loading part, the working part, and the resting situation. Is super tough, and we need to work more on that. And during the off season, sometimes they work with us, sometimes with the national team. We need to also collaborate a lot with different parts, or sometimes they work at their houses, whatever, with different professionals. So we need to collaborate with all of them and trying to make them understand that it's an important period for resting. So they need to rest, okay? Because there are some players, you could have some players that they don't want to stop. And that's a problem. And that's a problem too, because they get into the preseason with a higher amount of risk than the rest. Because they didn't get, when you rest is the moment also they need to know, we need to teach them that when you are resting and you are working too, there is not like, it's normal that you could get to rest 1 week, 2 weeks. There's no problem. There's not a big deal on that. But it's important that they learn that when they are resting is when the muscle has time to grow. So during the season, usually they don't have time for that. Even though that they work super good, we need to manage so many different things that are struggling with that inflammatory process in the muscle that they don't have time usually for that. So they need to have that good amount of resting on the off season, or at least try it. And if not, let them know that the season is going to be like really long. So at least keep on working if you want to, but work on the parts that you are more weak, on the parts that you struggle more during the season, because sometimes during the season we're going to focus more in performance and we don't have time to, I don't know, to do that preventive part of your ankle, because we are focusing more on your endurance, because we need you to be in shape for these 3 next games that we are having in 1 week.
I see. I see. No, there's so many things, man, that I want to talk about there, and kind of like to go back to the preseason and start all the way from the beginning and start touching all of those points. You mentioned a very important part, in which you try to to load them up in that preseason to make sure they're prepared, and that you don't really mind that they lose a game or they don't perform well in those preseason games if that's gonna make sure they're prepared for that season. Does that mean that you try to like make sure that the load, like how does the load look like in the preseason? You try to make it as high as possible. Do you progress it, or how do you manage the load in the preseason?
It depends on your club. It depends on the competition that you are competing, and also you need to know from coaches their objective, because some clubs they don't want to risk the whole season trying to get into the first positions, because they know that they will not be able to get into the first position. So they need to manage that situation, so that sometimes when I've been in also some other teams, I don't know, they know that they are having not a really good opportunity against this team on this situation, because we are having a lot of injured players. It's supposed to be a team that is performing really better than us on this situation. And I don't know. And the next game, and winning one of these two games that we are having here, you're competing against the first one and the other one that could be getting into the playoffs, the same situation as you. So maybe usually teams, they have to keep on with those conversations and all that. So we will risk a little bit more the game, always fighting for winning, for sure. Always fighting for winning, but maybe we will not push that hard the players mentally, physically, and everything for that game against the first one. That is not our season. We are trying to get into the playoffs in this situation. They are already in the playoffs. So it will depend on the idea. Sometimes the coach will be, okay, as they are already in the playoffs, they are not going to push that hard. So it's our moment. Let's go for the first team. And maybe if that's our idea and that's our plan, we will go for that, because we feel that the team is prepared. The amount of work with the gym has been good. The training court has been good. So we are going to go for the first team. Okay, we're going to go. But usually the idea would be the contrary. We're going to go against the, I don't know, the seventh team, and you are the eighth one too. And winning the seventh one will make us to be in a better position. So we are going to push way harder for the seventh one, because we are more prepared for that game.
Okay.
That situation. It will depend how they are performing, how the team is on injuries on that situation. It will depend on many things, but also we will try to always have a common idea on how we are going to develop on that situation.
I see, and it's very interesting, because a lot of people might think, okay, you just go to the game at the same way that you went to the last game, just looking to. Of course, you always want to win, but then you don't do it with the same approach, right?
That's the point. That's the approach. It would be different. You are always trying to win, but the approach will not be the same. Will not be the same.
Okay.
Because your objectives are not the same. Your idea for that game is not the same one. Maybe you are trying to. Sometimes, for me, this is also in sports. The details are super important. Super important. Sometimes you win 1-0 on football, doing a bad game, and sometimes that's useless for the team.
Yeah.
Because you've been just lucky. Maybe you've done terribly on defense or whatever, and you have scored one goal out of a corner, and that's the only good thing that you've done on the game. And that's shit. And maybe the next week you're going to push super hard because the team hasn't developed good when you were trying to. And sometimes you get to win, I don't know, on penalties or on a game, and it's the best game you've played in the whole season. Because mentally they were developing good, tactically they were developing good, and maybe you are going to give them more rest that week, even though that the next game is an important game, because they have done what the team was expecting out of them.
Okay.
So everybody's doing their job. So maybe the coach, it depends on the coach, depends on the people you're working with, for sure. The coaches, we will see how the coach is going to behave on that situation, but you need to think on this kind of situation. You're always thinking on winning, but the approach will be different.
I see. It's always, because what I was going to say is like you have so little time to play with when you're during season, that you try to be super conscious and distribute that energy in the best way possible, depending on who you're facing, the position that you're at in the season, and all those different variables. And you really want to be very careful on how you distribute that energy, right?
And that's what, sure. And that's what we were saying about the pre-season situation for that schedule. Because then you will sit down in the middle of the season, looking back on your papers, and you were like, shit, we were thinking that we would be on this situation and maybe we are not performing good. We need to change. We were thinking that this week we are going to give some rest and we need to push because we are not doing good, or just the opposite. Or, okay, we are doing better than what we were expecting, or we are having more injuries or whatever. We're going to give some rest to the team because we feel that we need it. We were thinking that we were going to push on this week, but as we are not we are doing better than we expected. You could give them some more rest, some more time, whatever.
I see. And a concept that I came across not so long ago was that you want to make sure that that last moment of the preseason is the one with the highest load of the whole preseason, because you want to be ready for that first game or that start of the season. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that, and if it's true, to what extent, or if it depends.
The same. It will depend on the competition. For example, in basketball, EuroLeague is super important for us, for example, and it's gonna be in the middle of the season, and it's gonna be a peak of performance for the team for sure. We are gonna push hard for that. And during the season, it will depend on the team you are and everything. Sometimes you are already super good position, like 2 months before the end of the season, and you're not gonna be pushing that hard. But of course, if you were expecting to be the first, to be winning at the end of the season, and you are performing fourth, and you didn't expect that, finally you are gonna push harder on the end of the season.
Go all in.
Yeah. So it will depend. It will depend on the idea of the same idea of the preseason. You need to sit down with the coaches. You need to sit down with the bosses, whatever, and know the ideas, know the objectives that you will be facing for this season. Knowing where are you, what's your team, what is the idea of bosses, whatever. Maybe we're thinking on a long-term project. Maybe we're thinking that we are having a new team, new players, new coaches, new colleagues, and maybe we are gonna push trying to win this season. But if in this season we just try to get a good team, a good connection on between everybody, and we push forward for the next EuroLeague, maybe that's okay for the team. You need to know all those situations.
Definitely. And so the preseason will be where all the plan. I mean, this is a super high level overview, but like preseason will be mainly when you do all the planning, when you structure. Okay, this is the approach that we're gonna have for the season. In season is constantly tracking and making sure. Okay, in what situation is the team, and in what situation are the players, and see what adjustment can be made, like in relation to the plan. And then off season is where you take the chance of, okay, I'm either gonna rest because I need to, or I also have the chance to work on the things that I'm probably lacking a little bit more, no?
There you go. That's the global idea. That's the main idea. You need to change a little bit all that during the season, but yeah, sure, that's the idea.
I mean, also what you mentioned, like that you can't grow the muscle, like it's harder to grow the muscle if you don't take good rest. I think it's very important. Like, of course, like we all know, but I think a lot of young players, there's like no days off. I have to train every day 5 hours. I think also often you see often you see injured players coming back, like, I don't know, putting like, 5 kg of muscle on. Like I just saw the Dortmund defender Schlotterbeck. He was injured, and now he put a lot of muscle on because he had the time to do it.
There you go. Sometimes also that's super important. You have such an important material too. That also, when this is a good advice for everybody that might be hearing, when you're having an injured player and long-term injured player, they might always be mad, sad, like bad kind of feelings, no? It's also important for all that professionals that are surrounding that players that they teach them that it's also an opportunity for performance. Sometimes when you are injured, it's the opportunity for you to come back, sometimes even more strong, to come back even better than you were before, because sometimes all that situation that you had before has taken you into that injury. And now we are going to correct you a little bit. Maybe you were not landing good from jumps, and that's why you turned your ACL. And now we're going to work on that. It's your opportunity to come after that injury, sometimes even better than you were before. So take it on that idea. Don't take it on the negative part of the injury. Of course, we all know that negative part is every single player that gets to have an injury, they're going to struggle at the very beginning. But you need to change that state of mind as soon as possible and trying to get into having good professionals surrounding you and work to be better after that injury.
I think it's a great point. Also, like that shows what a good environment. Why is it so important for the player? I mean, of course, as a player, like you said, you're always going to be not happy about the injury, but it's
Sure.
time, like you can use the time and recompose your body, like
Body, mind, everything. Yeah.
Great, man. And that's great. That's a great piece of information, because I'm somebody that I've struggled with a lot of injuries. And as you mentioned, like, of course your first thought is like, oh, this is the worst thing that could have happened to me. But then, as you're saying, like, reframing it to, okay, it's not necessarily the worst thing, but it's also an opportunity to fix that thing that got me into this position, you know. So it's something that at the end of the day would have happened, but now I have the chance to fix it and come back, as you mentioned, stronger. So yeah, I think that's a great piece of advice, man. And inside that, of course, like, division between preseason, in season, off season, comes a lot of assessments, measurements, and evaluations that you guys do, in order to be able to have as much context as possible of the situation of each player. Can you give us like a little bit of those assessments that you guys do, to make sure, okay, in what position do we have this player?
We usually do many kind of measures. I will try to remember all of them. We check their range of movement, of course, of every single joint. We try to check every single range of movement. Then we try to measure their peak of performance with the weightlifting, different kind of groups, okay, with both surface, with endurance tools, many different situations. We track them daily with the GPS, usually, okay, many teams, national teams, and all that. We usually share with them also daily like a wellness scale, so that also we have that subjective part, how they are feeling, how they have rested, how they have eaten, and all that. And also we also take like a little survey about some other injuries that they have had, and we do check how they are doing with that, with images, MRI, whatever might be needed too.
Okay. So that gives you kind of like an overview of like the situation in which the players at. And I think it's also important to that you mentioned that subjective part as well. So you're not only relying on the numbers, but then also looking at how the player feels, right?
We try to have both ideas there. For me, as I was saying, I try to be as much scientific as I can. The objective part would be the data that we are getting for that player, okay? But we need to contrast that data with how they are feeling too, because data without clinic is useless. For me, it's even more important clinic than data, but I need to stick to that data because it's important for me. That's that scientific idea that I have of my job, but I need to contrast that those data with the clinic of the patient.
One of the most interesting things for me was when I did like a test like this, that you like your left leg might be weaker than the right leg. Like you don't even think about it before. But like of course, if you're right-footed, then the right like hamstring probably going to be stronger than your left leg.
There you go. But maybe the left one is supporting any other different parts of your body, and you need to work on that weak part of your body, because if not, that left one is gonna get injured. If it's more, that's a super cool study that is over there. If it's more than a 20% difference of the strength of that muscle in one leg than on the other, you are on a high risk of getting injured. So you need to work on that for sure. Right now, it's not a problem on you. You don't have that clinical part. You are not struggling with that left part, maybe. But you need to work on it because you're on a higher risk of injury.
Yeah, I mean, so you said 20%. That's like a high risk injury.
Yeah.
Okay.
The difference.
It also makes a lot of sense. Like, let's say you left, like if you're sprinting and your left leg can't support your right leg. I mean, of course, like you're gonna pull something.
For sure, if you detect something similar to that with your teams, you need to work on that. You need to work on that, and you need to talk with your bosses, with your colleagues, and all that, and with the player to have that amount of time on your season to work on that. Because right now you are not having that player with that injury, but for sure, if you don't want it, you are gonna get it. It's a really cool study.
Yeah, and that's mainly what happened to me. I'm going now to my second knee surgery, sorry, and it all began because of that. My support leg is the right leg, because I'm a left-footed, and I got injured from it because I was receiving a lot of impact, of course, equally in both legs. But then my right leg, due to it not being my stronger leg, it was less developed than my left leg. And then at the end, I got injured from it because I did an overload on it. And then after that, I started using, like, when I was recovering from my first surgery, I was doing work with the isokinetic machine.
Really good one.
To measure both,
that's what we do. Those data are super interesting and super useful. You need to do that. We cannot give we call the alta here in Spain. We cannot say that a player is ready for
clearance. You cannot
clearance. You cannot give that clearance to that player until we know that you can develop the same strengthness of that muscle. Because if not, you are gonna get injured, even though that you are not feeling nothing. Or no. You have to develop at least more than that 20%. The idea is to be the same amount of strength in both parts of your body, but we can manage a 10% difference. Okay, we will work on that because the coach needs you, whatever. Okay, we can work on that, but less than a 20, no, impossible.
And that's the main thing in my injury recovery, because of course you reach a point in which doing the exercises that you're doing, which may be like normal stuff like squat, deadlift, you don't necessarily feel pain or that is bothering. But then at that point, what really becomes the measurement for them to know, okay, you're ready or you're not ready, started being, okay, what's the difference of strength between the both legs? And then when that became closer is when you can start jogging again. You can now start implementing more in the field.
It makes you like being much more safe and secure of what you are doing during the whole process. You are being more professional as an athlete or as the professional that you are with that person. That data helps you a lot with that.
Yeah. Okay. And a question that I wanted to ask you as well is, of course, as athletes, and you mentioned this before, we always want to play, right? We might feel something, we might feel a pain, but we're like, no, we're good. I'm going to play. And that's actually what got me injured in the first place. And I think what gets a lot of people injured. And I wanted to ask you, how do you differ or how do you separate a pain that can be played through and a pain that you have to actually stop? Like, how do you make the difference between those?
Great question. First of all, the same as we were saying, ask the player, how is he doing? Are you doing fine with this kind of pain? Is too much for you? What are your feelings on that kind of feeling? The first one. The second one, we have in here something that we call the EVA scale. Okay, that is a subjective scale, but it helps us to manage all this. That is coming on a scale from 0 to 10. 0 is no pain at all. 10 is I'm dying out of that pain. Okay, everything that is on between a 3, 4 or less is something that we could usually manage. It's subjective, but that player will be able to manage it. And as professionals, we are more safe to manage that kind of pain. If it's more than a 5 or more, usually if you are training or you are going to perform with that, you're on a higher risk of getting injured. And you need to know that. And you will have to work on that if that's the risk that you are trying to take. Okay. And finally, the most important one, these two first ones were subjective, and it's also important your experience on this kind of injuries. Okay, it wouldn't be the same if it's a risk on a pulled muscle than on a tendon. You could take some more risk, and that depends on your experience. We take more risk on tendons than on muscles, for example. It's just an idea that I was thinking in here. And the other part would be the testers again. As if we have any doubt on this situation, we will do orthopedic kind of tests, we will do strength kind of test, whatever. But we will test to see if we could take the risk for that injury or not.
Okay. No, that's amazing, man. Because I was actually, that's something that I really wanted to like get an idea. And this is probably like the first time that I actually hear like an objective way and an actual framework to work around it. And like actually, okay, you of course see the subjective part, but then knowing your experience and the things that you're allowed to do, as you mentioned, sometimes you take a little bit more of space with the tendon injuries, and you want to be a little bit more tighter in that tolerance with the muscle injuries. But it all depends, and it's looking at different aspects, man. No, I really love it, man.
So you cannot just stick into the subjective part, because as we were saying, you don't know what is happening on the mind of that player or whatever. Maybe he's not telling the full truth for you, because what we were saying, you are on during the World Championship and he wants to play.
Definitely.
So that's why you need to take that data, you need to take that measurement, because if not, it's too short.
Yeah.
The
A
capacity of the season.
Torre ACL might become a 2 at that point.
Yeah,
They're
that
gonna
happens to
tell
all
you
of us.
too.
That happens to all of us.
Guillermo, and just to finish this part off, I wanted to ask you, and this is something that a lot of people would like to hear and super actionable. What would be a great, from a physiotherapy standpoint, what would be the perfect game day like for an athlete?
Oh, really good question. Well, for me, the best would be try to get good rest the day before, of course. Have a good, imagine it. We are thinking maybe on an afternoon kind of game. Okay, so during the morning, get good rest, but not too much rest. Okay, from 8 to 9 hours. Okay, you get up, you have a good breakfast. Okay, because the game is gonna be during the afternoon. Okay, with a good amount of calories, very varied on the things that you're gonna eat and all that, and you a little bit of loading, maybe at the gym. Maybe with the bike, it would depend a little bit. Okay, something that is not too thinking on football or on basketball, something that has a lot of impact, so that the joints doesn't suffer that much. So it would be more like on the bike, some exercise at the gym, working on the things, on the kind of groups, on musculoskeletal groups that are gonna help you more with performance, trying to get you to be stable and ready for the not getting injured and with enough strength for the game. Okay, then after a good amount of food too, because it's gonna be maybe the game 6, 7, thinking on that. Okay, a good amount of food with a lot of carbs in this situation, maybe good amount of proteins too. A tiny siesta, a tiny nap. Okay, not too much, from 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, and usually there's a trick with caffeine that if you take caffeine just before taking the nap or just after before the nap, it will increase a little bit your performance and how you are ready mentally for that game. And that would be nearly it. As soon as you get into the court, getting a good warm-up with the rest of the team, and also the importance about the same after the game, just not the party and all that, getting a good sleep and getting a good dinner after the game, so that you're starting to recover after the game. So it's important.
Amazing, man. So good sleep, good breakfast, some type of load. Then, of course, you have your lunch, you have your nap, and then you can put a little bit of caffeine either before or after that. And then, of course, you eat again, and then you get a good warm up once you go to the field. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, amazing, man. I mean, now, bro, it's been amazing. A lot of actionable advice to a lot of the people watching, and also for ourselves. It's very interesting and very important to see how, like, people that are like in your environment, people in those teams that like have these systems already set, dialed in, work through it, because then a lot of people can implement this stuff that not necessarily have the tools, but then they can look at this and see this advice and actually start implementing some of the things to be more conscious about their injury prevention, their injury recovery, and see how there are many different factors that you might not think about, but that they can still be contributing to you getting injured or to you not performing as well. So I really appreciate you sharing this experience and sharing this knowledge with us, man. It's super, super valuable.
No, thank you, please.
Me too. I really loved it. I was like so much insights into like this high level environment.
I love my job. I love sport. I love being a physiotherapist. I could be talking here for hours with you because, and also maybe you will share with me some important information that I could implement in my day-by-day situation. I always try to learn from everybody, from every single player. And yeah, sure, this is really appreciate a lot having you here talking with all these topics.
Of course, man. Of course. If you're okay with that, I don't know how you're with time, but we can go through some rapid fire questions. Quick,
no problem. Perfect.
Okay, perfect, man. So, ice or heat for a fresh muscle injury? Or not? Ice?
Ice. In the first 48 hours, ice.
Okay, amazing.
To get the swelling down, huh?
Yeah, there you go. Right now, there's a new concept of trying not to get that you need that inflammation process because that's healing you too. So now there's another kind of idea, trying to let a little bit that inflammatory process. But the problem is that icing situation is that well known, and you cannot change that set of mind for the players. That usually it would be ice. Heat, no, it would be ice. If I have to choose from between, always ice. If I have to say something different, maybe no ice, no hot. No, nothing.
Okay.
Just let that inflammatory process rest, and then we will see what happens after 48 hours.
I mean, the main issue with the inflammatory thing is like that's where the pain comes from.
Yeah, that's the point. We sometimes with the icing and with the compression that we usually put in there, we're trying to limit a little bit that inflammation so that we can manage a little bit more the time, so that we have less amount of time for that injury situation. But the problem in this case is a battle between what do we want on this player? We want to recover good, or we want him to recover fast.
I see what you're
That
saying.
would be the point on maybe icing or not icing that situation.
I see.
So foam rolling, essential or optional?
Essential.
Yeah.
Essential, yes. Foam rolling it was my study for my master degree.
Oh, yeah?
Using the foam rolling and the results that you get using it, and it's really well common right now that we have good studies showing that using the foam rolling will help you with performance and also with recovery. So yeah, so it's essential.
Foam rolling, so like my physiotherapist in Germany is like a magic tool for her.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, share with you some studies, and you could share with them and start to to have all that foam rolling.
She told me, like, for recovery, it's important to, like, if you like roll out towards your heart.
Yeah, always.
Okay.
That's the main idea as physios. We always try to get that fluid to get like into the chest, into a lymphatic part that we have in the chest, so that we could then get rid of those kind of substances that we don't need, and also helping that blood circulatory process with the heart and all the vessels and everything. Yeah. So that's the idea. But it's important also with the foam roller. The most important part, it could be a not that good tool if you put too much weight on it. So it has to be, again, as we were saying before, on that EVA scale, something that you could manage at 2 or a 3 when you are using it. It shouldn't be painful. Okay. If you are using it and you are having pain, that's not the idea of the foam rolling.
I see.
The same happens with a good physio. The good physio gets you to have a little bit of pain when you are getting treated, but not that a big amount of pain so that you are having even more inflammation after the process. It will be the same idea.
Perfect. Amazing, man. And what should an athlete or what should a player be doing at halftime to maximize the performance for the second half?
Okay. Same for football and basketball in this situation. First, a tiny bit of rest. Get to be cooled down a little bit for your mind and for your body. I don't know, a couple of minutes, not too much, because you're not having a lot of time. Listen to your coach and listen to your colleagues, listen to your teammates, okay, to see what the team needs and all that. Focus again for the second part, and after that, get a good warm-up. Again, focusing more on the good range of movement, on the kind of muscle groups that gives you to be more stable and ready for that performance, because you're gonna not looking for that peak of performance in that situation, because you're gonna develop already during the game. So just trying to feel secure, strong, and ready for the game. And also before or after that part of that warming up, a little bit of visualization. I really like it also to set that your mind also ready for the second half.
I see. Perfect, man. Perfect.
What is one sign in young players you think is that they're going to have like a long and healthy career?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
What is one sign in young athletes you see like that's going to show like they're going to have a healthy and long career?
Always their attitude and how professional they are. You see that. You see that mindset that they are like, this guy or this girl or whatever is ready for sport. He's focused. He's doing. He's listening to the people that is surrounding them, listening to the teammates and everything, and he's focused on himself. He's focused on the team. He's ready for this. He's gonna fight for this. He's gonna do his best. So I always try even more. If I have to choose on between talent, because talent would also be something interesting to look in your players. If I have to choose always between talent and attitude, I would choose attitude always, because on the long term, usually we are seeing right now for example, in football a lot that equal situation for many players and for many teams, because right now you don't see that many talented players, because the other ones, the ones with attitudes, the one that works in the gym, on the pitch and everything, they are the ones that are starting to show up a little bit more, because just talent is not enough right now. It used to be like that, But right now, there's a lot of people that they are not that well talented that are developing way better than the talented ones because they take care more of themselves, they work more for being better. And the other one, they have 1 year, 2 years of performance, and you never know about them anymore.
I think that's very interesting. Like, because nowadays we like say, oh, there's no Ronaldinho, no Neymar anymore. But it's probably like, because now we have so much more data and so much more science behind the sports. And also, like, now with football, we have way more games, or I would say too much games on the guys. So, like, people don't take care of themselves.
When you just said one of the best examples that I use for this, that is Neymar. Neymar, for me, it was an amazing player. An amazing player. We will never know what could happen if Neymar could have taken a better care of himself in and out the pitch, because right now he struggles a lot with his recovery too.
Yeah.
And maybe if we have worked a little bit more on the gym or whatever, I don't know, the day by day about Neymar. But I feel like this guy could have performed way better.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like also for me, like, I don't like to recover. Like it's but also like young athletes, I think like recovery is not that important. I mean, I still do it because I know it's important. But there's a Whoop interview like with Ronaldo, and then he says like, if I work out 2 hours, I'm going to recover for 2 hours. Especially like he's 40 years old already. But
it's the opposite idea. That's the thing. The best one on this was Cristiano Ronaldo. Maybe he was one of the. I had some people that I've worked with him and all that, and he was professional all the time, in and outside the pitch. And when you're having that, you know that this guy is gonna fight for the best results always. Yeah. You are gonna learn. He's gonna learn. Everybody surrounding that person is gonna be the best one, because he pushes you into that. He pushes himself into that, and he pushes the rest of the team into that. So he's gonna, for me, is a best way of developing. You could also win with talent, for sure. Yeah. And have many situations like this. But I would prefer always attitude.
Definitely. So attitude and being able to soak up all the or knowledge you can get from your surroundings.
Yeah, sure. And he always tries to, yeah.
Definitely. And Guillermo, what is the main mistake that you see athletes do when recovering from an injury?
Well, we were just saying, not getting to rest or focus on the recovering part.
Okay.
Because when you are young, and I've been on that situation too, you think that you are, I don't know, a superhero. You could last for every single situation and everything, but the truth is that it's not like that. And you stand to learn that with age. It's a normal process. Okay, so well, sometimes you will not look and don't be that strict on that situation with youngsters. Okay, but as soon as you start to learn that, you will develop better, you will perform better, and you will last for longer.
I see. I see.
And do you think it's better to be slightly overtrained or slightly undertrained before a game? I mean, now we had different. You told us about your approach, so everything was very interesting. Like, let's say a match day, you're second in the table and you play against the first one. Let's make it like this.
In this situation, slightly overtrained.
Okay.
That will help you to develop better. If you are slightly less trained, it would be harder for you to push on that kind of games.
Okay.
You are taking more risk of injuries, but as we are fighting for getting into the first position, we need to take the risk. And everybody will take it, I think. If you ask everybody will be like, yeah, let's go for it.
So is it more on the mental side or more on the physical side? Then?
Both.
Okay.
Both. You need to be ready on both parts, yeah.
Yeah, because that would be a sign that you're more prepared in some way. Okay.
Yeah, and we will take the risk because maybe imagine the full team is overtrained mentally, physically, whatever. Maybe we take the risk with one, but we have another one that is on the bench that is already ready. If we have them that is not that well prepared, we finally get to have an injury on the first one too, and the second one is like this in the bench, like just lay down and not being mentally ready or physically ready. You wouldn't get performance out of that.
I see. And what should an athlete, I mean, we also mentioned this a little bit, but what should an athlete specifically do right after the game?
Eat good and sleep good.
Eat good, sleep. You don't need anything else, right?
No, we were just talking a little bit about this during the whole podcast. For me, I always say this, and it's said also scientifically. You could have the best doctor with you, the best physio, the best physical trainer, whatever with you. If you don't eat and sleep good, you won't perform good. It's even more important, and it's my job. I would love to say that I'm the best, that I will do the best for you, and you are going to perform the best. No. I could be doing the best job that you could imagine, that if you don't sleep good or eat good, you are not gonna perform good.
Definitely. And it's the same concept of, like, sometimes we work with some younger guys, and they're like, hey, but what supplement should I take? And I'm like, brother, if you're not eating the right amount of calories or the right amount of protein, we shouldn't be looking into magnesium or anything, like, that's not gonna make anything.
First the basics and then the details, but first the basics for sure, and then it will come the rest. So the basics will always be eating good and sleeping good, always, and then we will see the best physio, the best doctor, the best nutritionist, supplement, whatever, the rest of the equation. But the two most important parts are eating and sleeping good.
Definitely, man, definitely.
And I really we both really enjoyed the podcast. You gave some great advice, not just for the viewers, but also for us too. And if there's like one advice or one final advice to young athletes, which one would it be?
For me, mainly two things. Trust the process, trust on you, and be patient. If you have the attitude and you have a dream and you stick to it and you work on it, I'm pretty sure that it will depend on many different variables and everything, but you will develop and you will start to show your improvement and the work that you've been on. But you need to trust yourself, trust the process, and be patient for that. You are young and you are trying to develop when you are an adult. Don't get mad when you are 16 years old and you are not the best on your team. We have many other examples of people that have not been performing that well when they were young, and finally they were into the NBA, went into the national team or whatever. So trust the process, trust on you, and work for it.
It's a marathon, it's not a sprint, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Amazing, man. No, as Matt was saying, we really got a lot of value from this, man. And as I was telling you before, I really appreciate you taking the time. I really enjoyed this talk, man. And just looking forward to perhaps talking again, man. I think there's a lot of more things that I want to ask you, though.
Let me know if you have any other opportunity for meeting and talking a little bit. So, yeah, sure. It's been a pleasure with you guys.
Amazing, Guillermo. Amazing. Well, no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, you too.
Enjoyed it.